wonderful congratulations to Dr. Ekchian. She's been an amazing support and a fantastic superintendent. And we'd like to say congratulations to her as she was just picked as the 2022 LA County Superintendent of the Year. Dr. Ekchian, thank you. As proud as you are of us, we are so incredibly proud of you. Thank you so much for being here and being the wonderfully supportive superintendent we've all come to know and love. Now, National Hispanic Heritage Month, this is part of the series. And so what I'm going to share with you is, I was going to share a video from this, but I can go ahead and read it. Yesterday, delegations from Adelante Latinos, the Glendale Latino Association were invited to the Glendale City Council, and we were given a proclamation. So I will go ahead and read that for us. Whoops, I need to be patient. Okay, here we go. Whereas, sorry for looking away from you, it's over here. Whereas the city of Glendale traces its history back to its days as a Spanish settlement, once belonging to the Verdugo family and part of the colonial New Spain, a land of indigenous and multiracial people, a 36,000 acre area known as Rancho San Rafael. It included which later would become Glendale, Burbank, Montrose, Eagle Rock, La Crescenta, Glassell Park, and Sunland Tujunga. When the city of Glendale first came into existence in 1876, it was called Verdugo. And whereas the city of Glendale has embraced and recognizes the benefits and beauty of cultural diversity and has become a strong advocate of racial justice and inclusivity of all of its residents, and whereas Hispanic heritage holds a special place in the history of Glendale and continues to thrive in the fabric of Glendale through its residents, entrepreneurs, writers, artists, public servants, veterans, engineers, doctors, academics, and leaders in government and labor. And whereas our community has been enriched by vast rhythms of Latino music, a variety of talented artists, the spices of the food we enjoy, and the laborers from the front lines, such as doctors, nurses, teachers, childcare providers, and laborers that are the backbone of our city. And whereas we are part of a nation with 62.1 million Hispanics, making up 19.1% of the U.S. population and 19.9% of Glendale population, and accounting for $2 trillion in buying power, $2 trillion in buying power, and the largest, fastest growing ethnic minority, we recognize that America cannot succeed unless Hispanic families succeed. Whereas each year, Americans observe Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the many contributions, the history of Americans where ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central and South America, and whereas we are proud of a heritage that includes Indigenous, African, Asian, Arab, and European heritage, we are most proud of the humanity that includes the people from Argentina, Belize, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Honduras, Jamaica, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Trinidad and Tobago, Uruguay, Venezuela, and the unincorporated U.S. territory, Puerto Rico. And whereas we are standing, a proud people that can't be drawn with one fine, que viva la America, que viva Latino Glendale. Now, therefore, I, Artie Kasabian, Mayor of the City of Glendale, proclaimed September 15th to October 15th, 2022 as National Hispanic Heritage Month. And so we were invited to the City Council meeting, so we wanted to make sure that we shared that with you. So those of you that would like to follow us on social media, here is our email address. We also have a website with the GUSD. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have a YouTube page where this program is being recorded and will be posted for later viewing. We already have 2 years of recordings. This will be our year 3. So we are very proud of that. Here are some of the other people that have been able to see us, be here with us. And I am really excited that we are bookmarked by 2 fantastic women. We started with Anina Quinones Gabrielian, Dr. Carlos Otto, Ignacio Gomez, and Dr. Carlos Reyes Guerrero. And now today is Samantha Nuno. We will post that link on our website, gusd.net/Adelante. Oh, sorry. Let me just do that. We're not sharing. Okay, here we go. So moving on. We'd also like to thank, let's see. let me just do this. Sorry. We'd also like to thank all of our speakers who introduced us to our speakers this year. Jenny Quinones-Skinner, Natalia Lewis, who I believe is responsible for Ms. Nuno joining us this evening, who is also in the audience. Thank you, Natalia. Marisol Chianello, Dr. Adriana Guerrero Pastangi, who is the newest assistant principal at Crescenta Valley High School. Our larger GUSD Adelante Latinos group, we have our two new co-chairs this year, Francesca Silva, co-chairperson, Miguel Gonzalez, who's another assistant principal at CV High School. We have Brenda Bessaril, our fundraising chair, who's just killing it on doing dinner nights, and we will have our next dinner night coming up very soon, and I'll be announcing it at the end. And of course, Ms. Christine Benitez, who is your regular chairperson here. She's the mastermind behind our amazing speaker series. Also, again, thank you to the Glendale Unified School District, Dr. Ekchian, Glendale Public Libraries, and you'll be meeting shortly our student moderator, Giovanna Aldas. Okay, so Giovanna, if you would like to go ahead and come on, thank you so much. Let's go ahead, and you can go ahead and read our bio, please. Go right ahead.
Okay, so today we are going to present Samantha Nuno. Samantha is a Mexican-American and first-generation student born and raised in Silmar in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. Growing up at her family home with her 5 siblings, she has personally seen how climate change impacts like extreme heat and wildfires affect communities of color, many of which are already overburdened by high levels of air pollution. Her upbringing inspired her passion for climate resilience and environmental justice with her academic and professional career. Samantha recently graduated summa cum laude from UCLA in 2022 with a master's degree in public policy, as well as cum laude from Scripps College in 2018 with a bachelor's degree in environmental analysis. In her master's program, she explored courses and knowledge from her interdisciplinary fields like sustainable science, community engagement, economics, policy, urban planning, and law, which have inspired her interdisciplinary approach in her career. In her grants and programs analyst role at Climate Resolve, Samantha writes grant proposals and accesses new funding opportunities and relationships. Previously, Samantha spent her summer 2021 as a Luskin intern at Climate Resolve and later was contracted by Climate Resolve as a grant writing consultant for applications to the 2021 California Resilience Challenge grant and the EJ4 Climate Grant. Samantha collaborated on the 2021 CRC grant application with and for the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians Tribal Climate Resilience Framework Plan, and the FTBMI was awarded the grant. Before that, Samantha worked at the Luskin Center for Innovation as a Luskin Fellow, as well as an administrative intern at Culver City's Transportation Department. During her LCI fellowship, she worked on the climate adaptation team, assisting in research related to how the climate crisis, specifically extreme heat, impacts vulnerable populations and informs policy to increase community resilience. Samantha inspires to move toward an anti-racist and climate-just future that is rooted in principles of abolition, environmental justice, and intersectional feminism. During her free time, you can find Samantha laying on the beach, picking up a new sports hobby, trying a new BIPOC-owned restaurant, or catching a jazz or punk live show.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Giovanna. You will be seeing more of Giovanna later. And now, everybody, I'd like to present Ms. Samantha Nuno. Let me go ahead and stop sharing for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. There you go.
Can y'all see my screen?
We certainly can. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. And let's see. Sorry, just getting a little adjusted. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Giovanna. That was great. I didn't realize how long it was, but I'll be going through some more of that in detail. But yeah, so here's my presentation. I'm Samantha Nuno, and here in this presentation itself, I'll be talking a little bit about my upbringing, school, my career, and also just passions of mine, and like how my personal identity and also the culture with my family has impacted that journey. So So first I'll be talking a little bit about my upbringing. So here I have my family, a picture, a really recent picture actually from my graduation from my master's program. I come from a large Mexican-American family, very, very big. Here is just my direct family from my family home, along with my grandmother, and actually my older half sister is not here. So it actually is much bigger than even this picture. And then just to share a little bit about my cultural background and ethnicity. I am Mexican American. I also consider myself a Latina. That's how I identify usually. And my dad was actually born in Jalisco, Mexico, and my mom was born here in the San Fernando Valley of California, but her family is from Guadalajara. And so I was also born in the San Fernando Valley, along with all my siblings. And both of my parents and their parents speak Spanish, and I put a little meme concept here. I am kind of a no sabo kid, so I'm not the best at speaking Spanish, but I understand a lot of Spanish growing up with my entire family speaking Spanish, and just shared that because sometimes it's a common experience with students and kids who might be second generation or third generation Latinx or Hispanic here in the US. And I also included a picture of my siblings as well, just to share a little bit more there. And my little brother is not in that picture, but sorry. And so I grew up in Silmar in the San Fernando Valley, which is not too far from Glendale actually. And here I was able to grow up and like really experience growing up with a large Latinx population, and that was really reflected in like food and people and music. Like everywhere I would go in my local neighborhood, there was always grocery stores that had the food that my family would make or ingredients for that food. I also, when I was little, went to school right down the street. And I also grew up playing tennis at the local park that's actually on this map that you can see on the top right. As far as my education, I bring up the map because in my beginning years in elementary, I was able to get educated in like an environment that very much reflected my neighborhood. And then from then on, I ended up going to schools that were a little bit outside of my district. So the populations there were not the same as in my local neighborhood. And so I didn't see a lot of like Latinx culture and also just Latinx students in general in my middle school, as well as my high school, and then especially moving towards my undergraduate college and then further into graduate school as well. Yes. And right here in the top corner, I have a photo that's related to environmental policy and environmental science. This was a major, at least for me, a major time in my life where I like really figured out what I wanted to do. In high school, I was able to take an AP environmental science class. We learned all about different topics related to environmental science, but a lot about anthropogenic pollution, climate change. So essentially the things that we're doing to our environment that may be harmful to the earth, but also to ourselves. And it was really interesting to learn this from my perspective, learning about sustainability in the classroom, when I feel like growing up as a low-income Mexican American a girl, I really just like always experienced seeing my family like recycling, reusing, living sustainably, essentially. So I think this was like a really monumental time for me to learn about like what I was passionate about, but also be able to kind of link my own upbringing with my education, and also really realize that that's what I wanted to pursue in going to college. And then I wanted to talk about a little bit about role models. Growing up, I didn't have too many Latinx role models, and especially those that I could see in my local community related to science. But I wanted to share a little about the role models that I did have growing up. And so I think one major role model was Serena. I think she's a very popular figure, and also very much love her music, but seeing her struggle as a Tejana and who only spoke English and had to learn Spanish, I think I really resonated with that. And like this concept of her feeling like she wasn't Mexican enough or American enough, I think was something that I resonated with as well. And I think it's like a common struggle for a lot of Latinx and Hispanic folks in the US. And then let's see, another one was Serena Williams. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, at a young age, my parents put me into tennis classes with my siblings. I really appreciate that now growing up, but like the reason for that was like to make sure that during my free time, I was like doing something like productive and active, but ended up getting into tennis and playing tennis for quite a bit of my life. So Serena Williams was also one of my big role models. She's the best, but also I think seeing her as someone who also grew up in the greater Los Angeles area, and being able to overcome a lot of different obstacles in her life. And yeah, that was someone who I really looked up to. And then lastly, I think was also my grandma Lupe, who I'm very close to, who I mentioned, she was in one of the original pictures, who really helped me learn about like my connection with my Latinx roots, and she's always maintained that. And I think also just the way that she loves, worries, stresses about her family, but her work ethic and style are all like things that I feel like have been really important for my roots and for her passing down to her kids. And yeah. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about college, because I was gonna head into like my experience going to undergraduate college. But here's just a few stats that I think I wanted to share with you all today. I'm sure you guys have seen similar stats about like Latinos being more likely to be first generation college students than any other racial or ethnic group. I myself am also a first generation college student, and I think it's a very unique experience. And I think a lot of colleges are now understanding that it is a very unique experience. And here I just want to encourage you on your path, especially exploring colleges, and also to let you know that I could serve as a resource on this journey, which I know is a hard one, especially when having to navigate like financial documents. Also, application materials could always be complicated as well, and all of that those sorts of things. But I also want to reiterate that everyone has their own path. For me and my family, my siblings all sort of had a different path than me. I as a first generation student, like when I was in high school, applied to a lot of different colleges, like around 15, 20 colleges. I made sure to also like ask for application fee waivers, because that whole process could be an expensive one. And especially coming from a low-income family, that was like something that I always like made sure to let like my friends and family know about, like entering that journey of applying to colleges. Also, the types of colleges you go to could, the prices really vary, but in my experience, I ended up going to a private college, and often saw a lot of my peers not applying to private colleges because of the ticket price of those colleges. But I guess I always want to share with those that I have the chance to talk to that, especially for private colleges and even for some public colleges, like it's not always the ticket price that you see, and that there's opportunities for like academic or sports or other types of scholarships, and there is a lot of money out there. So always reaching out about those resources. But here I did share a little bit about I had a picture of my siblings, because my siblings all had a different journey than me. One of my younger sisters, she went to community college for 2 years and is now at UCLA. Another one of my sisters went to CSU Fullerton and went there on a tennis scholarship. And then another one of my brothers, my older brother, went to Azusa Pacific University on a tennis scholarship, but that's a private school. So everyone's journey is a little bit different. My littlest brother here, shown in white, he doesn't exactly like school, but I'm always going to steer him towards really utilizing education in the ways that he enjoys it, but also might steer him towards union building trade or things that he is like skilled in for his future careers. So just to say, everyone has their own path. So okay, and now I'll talk a little bit about my undergrad college experience. So when I went to Scripps College, it was just private liberal arts college. I went in knowing that I wanted to do environmental science, as I let you all know. And this was quite a journey for me. I entered this space knowing that it's a predominantly white institution, what's usually dubbed the acronym PWI. So there wasn't too many students like myself in my classes, and then also in my science classes. But here I was able to take a variety of courses, lots of ecology, climate change science, biology, oceanography, and this included like really awesome experiences, like different field trips. Like for my oceanography classes, like we were able to take boat rides and like be able to take like our own samples of ocean soil. And also like within this realm of science, I was also able to explore like other courses, like flying drones to take images in order to map them for like seeing what vegetation looks like, doing comparisons of that sort. And so I really enjoyed my time at Scripps College, like pursuing all of these different types of science and like making sure to stay on track also with my and ensuring I could graduate. And so I think for me at least, it was awesome being able to explore all my passions within science. But I think also having study buddies who were there for me, and also friends who were Latinx who could kind of identify with my experience there, I think also really helped. And I think I'll go into a little bit about community and like the importance of community at college, or really in any space that you are in. For me at Scripps College, that looked like a club that I joined, which was Café con Leche. It was essentially just a club for women, for Latinx women to discuss like social, political, and economic issues. And that could really just include like hanging out together, but also could include like political activism. Also included like making sure we were like all taking care of ourselves. So essentially self-care. And I like had the privilege of being in this club like my entire college experience, and we would have weekly meetings as shown in the pictures, as well as like retreats. So I think in your journey, I would encourage you to like seek out these spaces that you feel most comfortable in, and really take advantage of resources, because like this club itself was sponsored by our college. So it was also a way to like not have to spend so much money while at college as well. And then kind of related to that, for me, being a Latinx student on campus, I really got into campus activism, and that looked different depending on the year, but really supporting Latinx community on campus, and like pushing for our school to become a sanctuary campus, as well as asking our college to support DACA or undocumented students. And this is where like I really learned about the power of not only activism, but like advocacy for Latinx issues, but maybe also not strictly Latinx issues, but issues that affect lots of different cultures and ethnicities and races. So a lot of pushing for activism that really helps all people of color in general. While at Scripps, I was also able to work in this pre-college program for young women of color. And so we invited students or students applied to and then were invited to our college campus. And the way that I worked in this program was as a student, as a student mentor and facilitator. And it was a really awesome program. The students, or the high school students, came to live on campus for 2 weeks. And we held like courses and workshops for them, and essentially to give them like a pre-college experience, let them know how it would feel, also like being away from their families, since they would be on campus for the 2 weeks and like weren't supposed to be using their phone all the time and that sort of things, like really providing an immersive experience, as well as helping them in scoping out their career and school plans, as well as actually applying to colleges. And so that was a really awesome sort of pre-college access and preparation program that I was able to be a part of while being there. And then I made this slide to sort of show how I was able to explore environmental science while at Scripps College, but also really started to learn more about policy in the same realm, and like how science relates to the laws and like regulations, and also that impact people day to day. So like seeing how different populations have to face like different issues. And I think for me, towards the end of my college career is when I really sort of started to transition from science to policy. And for me, it was really like missing the attention to people and cities, and especially kind of an emphasis on my Latinx community, like what are the issues that are related to the environment that impact people on a day-to-day. And so that was a little bit about like my transition into policy, although I still really enjoy science. And I think it's really important to have a scientific background, especially when like learning about different environmental policy issues. For me, this is like kind of how I ended up getting steered more towards policy. And so that brings me to one of my passions, which I really started to learn about in undergrad, which is environmental justice. And this is essentially just the idea that all people, like regardless of race, sex, any sort of identity, have the same access to environmental resources and environmental quality, and are treated the same in terms of environmental laws and regulations. And I think this is a bigger concept now, but like in my undergrad, there wasn't like much talk about it. So it's been really awesome to see that transition into it being really well known that communities for generations, especially Latinx communities, and Black communities and other communities of color have had to deal with a lot of discrimination that's led to like environmental pollution or lack of access to green space and parks. That's been something that people of color have had to deal with for a long time. And I think this really merged like my understanding and like my background in environmental science with this like with this experience that I feel like I also had growing up in a place where I had to deal with a lot of extreme heat and also wildfires all the time, and seeing how that impacted my family personally. I think this was really like a sort of light bulb for me in terms of my career. And so I'll go a little bit into my graduate college experience as well. I know I've been talking for a long time, but here at UCLA, I was able to pursue a master's in public policy. And once at UCLA, was able to start pursuing research specifically in policy. I had done some research in science, but now was the chance to sort of merge the impacts to populations like of populations of color, and like for me in my research fellowship, that looked like really delving into what are the impacts of extreme heat on local populations in the San Fernando Valley. What are the laws and policies that are in place, or is there any laws or policies that help protect certain populations? For some people, extreme heat might not impact you as much if you have air conditioning, if you have money that could help make sure like that you'll feel more comfortable when it's extremely hot. But a lot of populations, especially in Los Angeles, don't have that at the moment. So I was able to do research there, as well as pursuing fellowships like this that really linked my passions with it also being a job. This was a way that I was able to also end up paying for my graduate school. And so on this slide, I always encourage you while at college to, if you would like the supplemental income, or if you are paying for your school as well, to really pursue paid internships or research jobs, or maybe even teacher's assistant jobs, because there's usually a plethora of those at different colleges. Yeah. And then also at UCLA, I was able to be in another sort of student of color organization, and this one was specifically Policy Professionals for Diversity and Equity. And so I just wanted to share this with you because I feel like in all spaces that you go into, you could really be advocating for your communities in the ways that you want to, and then in the ways that align with your passions. And for me, this was one of them. And while I was here, I worked as the external affairs co-chair, and worked with other students, not only Latinx students, but other students of color. And here was able to do more advocacy work, and that looks like encouraging more courses focused on racial justice, trying to encourage our department to make a racial justice course a requirement so that everyone has like this basic understanding going into policy, because in policy, really the way that you create you create laws or regulations could really impact some populations more than others or impact them differently. So that was really important for me and other students in this org. Also hosting more programming for students of color, whether that be like poetry nights or whether that be like providing lunch on certain days for us to come together, or discussing like certain political events that have happened recently that make us feel a certain way. And also, I think in this program, I was able to also continue in like my work in helping other students apply to college. And here I was able to help students applying to my program in particular for grad school, and also being their mentor during school, as far as being maybe 1 year ahead and having like more resources collected to share with them. And then, of course, as a public policy graduate, I have to share with you a little bit about the courses that I really enjoyed. But while at UCLA, I was able to take different courses in theories of racial justice, Latinx social policy, which was a super awesome course taught by one of 3 Latinx professors in my program. Taking a policy advocacy course, which was really a sort of like formulation of like this different advocacy and activism that I was able to do in undergraduate college and then in graduate school. And I think that was actually one of my favorite courses, because I was able to actually speak with some council members about a certain bill that was meant to provide protections for extreme heat at the state level. So essentially provide money and also a framework for more policy to be implemented to help people in the state of California related to extreme heat impacts, because there's a lot of impacts and a lot of research out there that shows how people's everyday lives, their health, their income, even rates of learning are impacted by extreme heat. And that, I think also the reason why that was my favorite, because that is also because I was able to work with a classmate to tell her uncle's story about him not being protected from extreme heat while he was working as a roofer, and he actually passed away due to that. And so sharing these stories about like why this policy is needed, I think was like really important to me. And also the course just like gave me tools that I now use in my career. And then just to close up a little bit, I also was able to do an internship at Climate Resolve, a local climate resilience organization while I was there. And also was able to do an applied policy project that was actually working with the World Bank's office in Mexico's transportation department, and looking at like how an electric vehicle transition will not only impact the United States, but also communities and also environmental goals in Mexico as well. And so this was like also like a very awesome project that I was able to work in, that like merged my understanding and also my own roots in Mexico with my passion and also my academic career. And so just to end off with my most recent jobs, right after undergraduate college, I worked at my undergraduate college as a student affairs coordinator and was able to explore and host a lot of like leadership events. After that, I was able to work at SWCA, which was an environmental consulting firm. And this was my first look at the sort of private environmental sector. And here I worked as a logistics coordinator, so more on the administrative side and less on the science and policy side. But I think the reason why I include this is also because I think it's really important to enter all the spaces that you go into, like looking for mentors. And here at SWCA, I was able to find an awesome Latina mentor, Natalia Lewis, who was mentioned earlier. But in all the places that you go in your career, I would encourage you to find those people and keep those connections, because it's really important. And like I mentioned, like in being in college, that those spaces and those people are really important, I think, for sometimes navigating like situations or experiences that might be difficult for you, or even just learning on the job. And then lastly, presently where I work, I actually work at Climate Resolve, the same place where I interned at in graduate school. So also would encourage you to explore internships and keep those connections there, because in your career, I think you'll find that it really does help, knowing different people and maintaining those connections. And here at Climate Resolve, I'm the grants and programs analyst, and I've been able to do essentially like apply my schooling in ways that like I didn't really imagine I could do. But here I've been able to work on like a lot of environmental justice issues and climate resilience issues, working directly with communities that are impacted, as well as local Native American tribes that are also dealing with a lot of like impacts from both pollution, but also like more climate change impacts like extreme heat and wildfires or flooding. And it's been super awesome being able to do that. And yeah, I think I'm going to close off there and leave it open for questions. But just wanted to thank you all for listening, and also for having the chance to close out Hispanic Heritage Month, or the speaker series. But, yeah.
Well, Ms. Nuno, thank you. Oh wait, can you hear me? Hopefully. Sorry. Thank you so much. That was amazing. That was really a wonderful talk, and we appreciate how inspiring that is. We have some questions to ask you in the Q&A. Giovanna, if you could join us, that would be amazing. We'll go ahead and Giovanna, let me just add her to here. Hi. Okay, here we go. And then I'm going to take myself out. Giovanna, go ahead and you can start with the Q&A. Go ahead.
Okay. So the first question is, besides taking the AP class that influenced your career choice, who or what influenced you?
So in my career, I would say, and also in my passions, I would definitely go back to like mentioning like my family, but also like my upbringing. I think itself really influenced like what I was passionate about. And I think also like the communities that I've been a part of. And like, while I grew up in Sylmar, that's really close to Pacoima, which is one of the most polluted neighborhoods in like all of Los Angeles County, like really impacted by like poor air quality and lots of different sources of pollution. And that's because of kind of different policy and urban planning that's happened in the past. And I think learning about all these issues, and also like being able to see it like in my community and in the experiences that my family has shared with me, I think that really like pushed me towards my path. Besides that class, I think that class really like showed me that it could be like a viable option to pursue as like in an academic sense, and then in a career. But I think like really like connecting like what you learn in school to like what you experience or what your community experiences, I think is like a really good way to go about like trying to navigate that. But also it might not always be like a light bulb click, you know, so sometimes you have to explore what you like.
The next question is, well, so you were talking about how you're a first generation student. So what was it like going to college? Because I know a lot of students like have trouble adapting to that.
Yeah, so I also went to a 4-year college that was kind of far from where I grew up. So it was like about a 2-hour drive from my family's home. It wasn't too far, but it was in the Inland Empire in Claremont, California. And for me, I think growing up with a big family, it was personally a little bit nice being able to go to a new space and also not be all cramped in our house. But I think the most difficult things for me was like missing my siblings and also like sometimes feeling, I guess, a little bit scared, because once you're like in a new setting and you live there, it could all be like a little bit scary and overwhelming. But I'll always encourage you to find your community and also like just really be open about resources that you might need, because I think navigating Scripps College was really easy for me once I spoke to other Latinx students, especially older Latinx students, about like how I was feeling being there, but also like maybe things I was struggling with, like finding a job or maybe a class that was really difficult for me, and always just like making sure to get connected with the resources that you need. And also people, I think, will help you do that if you're like very communicative about yourself and like the things that you need. And I also always encourage you to advocate for yourself, like in an institution like a college, like making sure if you are having an issue with something, make it very clear to administration that it's an issue that you as a student and you as usually a paying student have, and that they should be able to fix. So that's also something that I would encourage you to do. But I think community at a college is like what makes it easier, especially if you're living there and especially if you're feeling like a little bit lonely. I think it's really important.
The next question is, what changes do you hope to see in your community or in the bigger world in general?
Ooh, that's a good question, a really big question. Well, I would say for me, I think that's why I really wanted to go into policy, because I think there's a lot of changes that can be made, but I think for me, like really making sure that there is protections, as far as I'm really passionate about climate change impacts and like what that looks like on an everyday basis. So like, for example, at Climate Resolve, we have done like research that shows like the health impacts and also economic impacts to farmers and like people who work outside, and how extreme heat like really impacts them in their day-to-day lives. So I think like something just like very specific would be like more protections for workers from climate change impacts. What that looks like is like, I think, a very important conversation to be had, but like some possible solutions like include like making sure that employers are punished if they make their workers like work outside when it's not a healthy environment, or making sure that those employers like are have some sort of like insurance policy if they have to send their workers home, just to make sure that there's not really like any sort of like money issues that make like employers try to make their workers work in those like harmful environments. So I think there's a lot of different issues that I would love to see solutions for, but I think that's just one example.
The next question is, what hardships did you face when working your way up to your career choice?
That's a good question. I think for me, one of the big things that I dealt with definitely was especially in undergrad, was having to pay for my college. I ended up doing a lot of different jobs on campus, and a lot of them tended to be administrative jobs, so working as an office assistant in the different offices for student affairs on campus. And so as a low-income student, I ended up taking all these jobs that didn't necessarily put me on my career path, and so I did end up doing jobs that didn't exactly prepare me for that. And so I guess I would just encourage you to take advantage of any sort of resources, especially internships that are aligned with what you want to do in your career. And I think also for me, I just didn't end up doing internships because a lot of them are unpaid, and I think there's a lot more paid internships now. So always encourage you to go for those. But that's also another conversation to be had, that low-income students can't just work for no money usually, especially in college. So I think that was one barrier for me, but I think sharing with my networks and the people that I know, the things that I'm actually passionate about, helped me help them connect me with the resources that I needed to get back on my path. So
wonderful. Thank you, Giovanna. I appreciate. Great job, Giovanna. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me Hi. So I left your screen up. If anybody's interested in contacting Ms. Nuno, there's her LinkedIn and her Gmail account. And if you miss it, you can get it from me. I'll be happy to share that with you. So if you could stop sharing, Ms. Nuno, that would be great.
Thank you.
Of course. Now we just want to say thank you to you for coming and sharing with us tonight. We really appreciate it, because we believe that you can't be it if you can't see it. So that's why it's really amazing that we have professionals, college graduates, and of all stripes, and we are also passionate about a network of mentors. So thank you so much for speaking about that. Let's see. Here we go. Everyone, I want to make sure that you save the date, Saturday, November 5th, from 3 to 7, Dia de los Muertos, as we celebrate at our central library. If you're interested in setting up an ofrenda, or you have a group that would be interested in doing that, or if you want to come down, arts and crafts, that will be on Saturday, November 5th, 2022. Also, we are super excited to announce we're having our next dinner night. It's going to be at Shakey's in Glendale. If you haven't gone, it's amazing. They're going to give us 25% of whatever people buy from 3 to 8, not including alcohol, but definitely lots of stuff you can do to come on and dine out and help send a Latinx kid to college. We want to thank you so much, Ms. Nuno. We thank you so very much for your time and your talent and your experience. You were amazing. Thank you. Everybody, this is our final speaker of the Hispanic Heritage Month 2022. If you want to share this with your friends and family, please direct them to our YouTube page. It'll be up then. And we'd like to say good evening, everybody, and thank you. Bye-bye.